d4, d5, knight f3, knight f6, bishop f4, c5, e3, queen b6, knight c3, bishop d7, rook b1, e6, bishop e2, bishop e7, knight e5, short castle, a6, d takes c5, queen takes c5, queen d4, queen takes d4, e takes d4, knight c6, bishop e3, rook fc8, knight takes d7, knight takes d7, knight d1, knight b6, b3, bishop f6, c3, knight d7, a4, bishop e7, knight b2, knight f6, bishop d3, knight a5, b4, knight c4, knight takes c4, d takes c4, bishop e2, knight d5, bishop d2, a5, b5, bishop d6, bishop f3, b6, rook fe1, rook a7, king f1, king f8, king e2, rook e7, king d1, bishop f4, king c2, bishop takes d2, king takes d2, rook d8, king c2, g6, g3, rook c7, rook e5, rook d6, rook be1, rook c8, bishop g2, rook c7, f4, knight f6, bishop f3, h5, h3, knight d7, rook 5, e2, knight f6, g4, h takes g4, h takes g4, knight d5, bishop takes d5, rook takes d5, rook h1, g5, f takes g5, rook takes g5, rook h8 check, rook g8, rook takes g8 check, king takes g8, rook e5, rook c8, d5, rook c5, king d2, king f8, king e3, king e7, king d4, rook c8, g5, rook h8, d takes e6, f takes e6, king takes c4, rook h4 check, king b3, rook g4, rook e3, rook takes g5, rook h3, king d7, rook h7 check, king c8, rook e7, rook e5, c4, rook e3 check, king c2, rook a3, rook takes e6, rook takes a4, king c3, rook a3 check, king d4, king c7, rook e7 check, king c8, c5, rook b3,